You're listening to the Karmic Mirror podcast, where we explore the wisdom tucked within the layers of the self-help world.
Together, we bridge the gap between esoteric teachings and practical tools for everyday life, with self-love and personal growth at the heart of each conversation.
Whether you're a seasoned seeker or just beginning your path, join us and uncover the magic within and around you.
Here we are at the final new moon of 2025, the new moon in Sagittarius. Today we'll be just opening up the episode, which will follow with Liz's new moon reading and all of the intuitive guidance from a new goddess that showed up in the initial part of the reading. And what we know high level about this is it's a wonderful opportunity to set intentions for the year ahead and attune to the frequency we want to invite into our lives. Hi, Michelle. We were just kind of talking about Sag and all the things and hit record. What comes up for you out of the gate on this new moon?
Well, from what I have been listening to, I didn't give myself a ton of time with this information yet or the reading, but I did kind of dip my toe. And so here's what I'll share what I've been learning and I'll share what came up for me just in general around the Sag new moon. And so from a lot of the astrologers I love, of course, we love Chani over here. I'm also just a huge, huge fan of Jules Farrar, who has an incredible astrology podcast. And I love the way that she uses archetypes to really, which is so infused in the language of astrology. And it's how I understand things really well is through archetypes. And so some of the things I've been hearing is one, we have a new moon on Friday, and then we have the winter solstice on Sunday. So there's the very obvious aspects that we can see unfolding around us. If you happen to live on the Northern Hemisphere, then it is the winter solstice for you. And it's
Darkest day of the year.
it's the darkest day of the year. It's about being in the dark. And for me, when I think of this point in the year, I always think of fertile ground. I think of soil. I think of the looking like as we're recording, I'm looking outside my kitchen window and all of the trees are totally bare, right? Like the ground is covered in snow. And so I always think about it feels dead on the surface, like we're in this dark, dead space where everything is dead. But we know that under the surface, there's this incredible depth of understanding and fertile soil because it's doing what it needs to do. The earth and the seasons, Mother Nature does everything she needs to do every single year without, and we just get in the way. But there's fertile ground, there's things brewing under the surface, and it's like this dark unknown.
Capitalism gets in the way.
Yeah, so many things.
So
Patriarchy.
patriarchy. I was like, don't let me get on this soapbox.
But this fertile space, right? Because when I think of it in terms of seasons and what I see around me and the winter solstice, which is this beautiful time to plant seeds because there's so much happening that is unknown. Like it's a real trust experiment in trusting that you don't need to have anything figured out right now. You don't need to know the answers because we're in this period of stillness. It's like being in the womb. And why this is also super relevant is because literally last week I was in a coaching session and we were talking about this exact theme. And my client, it was just, we were reflecting on having this whole year of shedding and everybody shed. We talk about shedding, the year of the snake, all of this, right? But it's happening collectively and it's happening to varying degrees with everyone that we know in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's little things. Maybe you shed habits. Maybe you shed literal people grieved in your life. Maybe you shed parts of your identity that you were learning to come back to yourself and you were shedding these parts of your personality, of your identity that you carried with you for years and years. And so what happens after an immense, immense shedding? We're like left with a void. We're in this dark space and you're like, where the fuck do I do now? But it's not the time to know what comes next. It's like the time to just be in the stillness. And so there's that, right? There's that on like that's on one hand is what's coming up for me. And then when I think about the new moon in Sag, it's kind of like, okay, we're in Sagittarius season. So the sun is in Sag, the moon is in Sag. And what do I know about Sagittarius is they're the adventurous, they're the optimist, and they're the archer. And so for me on a personal level, it feels like Yes, we're coming to the end of the calendar year, the Gregorian year, which I don't necessarily subscribe to. I'm a follower of the zodiacal year. My year starts in April with the spring season. But I do love to live in season. And so I think about Sag. It feels like if I'm in this dark womb space, this fertile ground where I don't need to have it figured out, I don't need to figure out the detailed list of what I'm manifesting or calling in. But I do, and I text you about this, or I voice note you about this the other week because I was listening to Jules for our podcast, and I was like kind of pushing you. Can you listen to it? Listen to this. Because Jules talks about crafting her wild list. And it's like, what is this wild list of the things? And I think even last month we talked about like Black Moon Lilith and your desires. And so I'm still really in that space of if I don't have to have it all figured out, if I'm meant to be in this stillness, in the dark and the unknown right now, can I let this kind of Sagittarian adventurousness, this all of this permeate through how I daydream, how I use this time where like, yeah, I'm realistically, like physically, I'm real tired this like last 2 weeks. And I'm just so, and there's so many things going on. So physically, energetically, I feel freaking tired, but my mind is still going. And so I'm like, how do I channel that and just let myself create a little bit more of like a wild list. And I mean wild like not out of reach. I mean wild like more playful. I mean, I've been telling you my list of what I want to do in 2026. And part of that is like I want to read one classic literature book every month. Like I want to expand my mind and my horizons through things that are really interesting and exciting and playful and adventurous, but in my own way, if any of that even makes sense. But that's what's coming up for me just in general.
Yeah, as you were talking, we just had our first snow where I'm at on, well, not first, but first relevant because it's stuck. And one of my dear friends was here this weekend with her stepdaughter. And so they opted to get up early with the snow. And so 6:30, they're up
Ooh.
to get on the road. And I was up and I just really took the opportunity to get out and just walk. And
Mhm.
being that it was Sunday, I also just knew no one's getting up early on a
Yeah.
Sunday. They are prolonging walking those dogs in the snow, of course, right? And you had said something where, yes, it is what you said, like, look out your window. So I'm looking out my window and I'm like, "Oh, of course, she can see them. And I'm like looking out my window. It's that snow, ice, just
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. But then it comes back to with that and what that brings is this stillness and is this silence and ability to just get really, really present. And
Hmm.
there's not much distracting you because the world, the animals, the leaves, right, are all pretty quiet. So a lot
Yeah,
of time for reflection.
super. And that's a lot of what I've been hearing is like it's time to not only reflect but be an acknowledgement. Like, yes, most likely many of us here and listening have gone through some form of release, of shedding, of your own maybe mini or monumental transformation over the past year. And it's really, really important. Everything around us, besides Mother Nature, everything in the society urges us forward. Like it's about urgency and it's about getting shit done. And the reality is there are seasons for that. And when we don't take the time, when we are shown these moments, when we're put in these moments of stillness, of dark, of this like womb space or whatever you want to call it, when we don't take the time to be in it and to just acknowledge where we've come, what we've grown through, we glaze over all of that. And there's so much real gold in what we've come through. So when you're in that space, and it doesn't mean you have to like sit down and write out all of the things you accomplished this year. If you want to do that, that's fantastic. If that's not your vibe, that's cool too. But I do think it's being with like, what have I come through this year? How have I grown? And I think I'm like, I love a good analogy, but it's like if we're thinking in terms of fertile soil, right? It's like there's work to be done in terms of when we've cleared so much space out, like I think there's work to be done for what's ahead. And it doesn't always look like moving fast. It doesn't always look like a lot. Like sometimes it truly is like taking a moment to just be with, like the work is like, how have I actually really grown this year? Not in just like, oh, the things that everyone can see, but are there subtle moves that happen under the surface? Are there like, and I think that's really, this is the moment to be with that. It reminds me of like the saying, like, wherever you go, there you are. And in
Mhm.
this moment, it's like, if you're like us, you're on the Northern Hemisphere, sometimes you're like, I'm not leaving my house, literally wherever I am over here. And I have nowhere to be. Maybe, for me, yeah, it's very, when the world slows down around you, it gives you time to just be with that. Like I was outside shoveling snow the other day. Not the thing I normally would do because that's usually Keith's job, to shovel the snow, but he was out of town. And I
Yeah.
was just kind of like, let's shovel some snow. And just being in those moments, it's like, again, yet another saying, but what's the saying of like, chop wood, carry water, like back to the basics of life, like just letting
Mhm.
yourself be in those mundane moments of responsibility and
Remember my
tasks.
chopping wood videos
Yes,
from
you
up at
chopping
my
wood,
dad's?
literally.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
literally, it's just
And it's the
moving your
season.
body and focusing, and it's the season. So lots of benefits for sure there. And
Yeah.
I think about, well, when my clients get in that place where they want that big tangible shift to prove that everything they've been doing is working. And I would say I get in my space like, how often do I, share what my ego is saying to you, Michelle, of like, I just can't get things done or whatever. And you'll be like, well, it sounds like, and you'll list off everything I've done, right? And so that is the beauty of why I love coaching also, because especially as a 3/5, I know that clients come to me where I'm also able through their lives to see how it
Yeah.
shows up for me. In that thought is that piece of we can only go as fast as the slowest parts of us can
Hmm.
go.
Yeah.
And it being that 9 year too, and the shedding of the snake is, and with these cards that were pulled
Yeah,
of the
totally.
depth and the ancestry behind it all and the lineage behind it all, you perk up. What comes up first for you with the cards?
No, I mean, one was that for those of you who have maybe been around for any of our past new moon readings with Liz, she used a new deck. And I just got to see this deck today, and I thought the images are stunning. I'm such a visual person. My moon is in Taurus. I live for the aesthetics of around me. And so I really respond to things when they excite me visually. And these cards are very beautiful. I think it's the woman, one of the cards, I want to say maybe it's the Nine of Cups that she pulled, maybe it's that one, but it's so beautiful. And if you are listening and you don't subscribe to our Substack, definitely check it out because I always put the images of the cards that Liz pulls for her readings. And this deck is just, it's beautiful. It's like the more I get into tarot, and and maybe I haven't mentioned it on the show yet, but I've met this local group of women and we started to do a tarot study group. And it's been so much fun to just meet with this interesting purpose of like learning and sharing. And it's been a cool experience. But I also get exposed to different types of decks because I am new in this space. I've just more recently taken more interest in tarot and in my own practice and so it gets me very excited to see decks that I love and then it's like I want them all but I wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, so her reading, I want to go back and re-listen a few times and just kind of really sit with it. But a few things, one, of course, she mentions that it's a 10-year that we're going into. And a lot of people talk about this, right? There's a one and the zero. The one is a new beginning and the zero is infinity. And there's a lot that makes me think of when we talk about starting new or starting a new chapter. And it's like you're never starting from nothing. And I say this all the time to people because it's so worth mentioning, but we're never starting over from scratch. We're always bringing something with us. We're bringing our lessons and our wisdom, our lived experience with us into every new chapter, every new beginning. And so, a lot of Liz's reading was to do with, she talks about emotional honesty. She talks about acknowledging our growth, our role that we want to play in the changes we'd like to see happen in the world and in our communities around us. Like, how are we going to show up for that? And then she talks about the last card, which is the Ten of Cups reverse. And this is a lot about, it has to do with like domestic life, but also emotional unfulfillment. And so just at a glance, it feels like this real moment to be, like we said, in the stillness, in this space, but really being honest with ourselves about, like we said, the growth, but also where in our lives are we not experiencing that emotional satisfaction and fulfillment? And is it time to let that permeate what we set intentions for this year and or how we move forward? So there's a lot of interesting conversation that she talks about emotional honesty, emotional depth and fulfillment.
I wrote more of a specific example.
Mm,
Those who are interested can head over to the Karmic Mirror blog to read a little bit more, but it was that Two of Cups with the vulnerability. I shared an
mm,
example of just some nuances with family things going on and how being emotionally vulnerable and sharing can also stir up some stuff around there. So that was very poignant. And then yeah, that full circle to the Ten of Cups reversed, I'd written down it's about domestic bliss and harmony within the home. Feels like reconciliation, meeting our early caregivers and family with empathy was kind of the
mm,
recommendation around this time. And so I think oftentimes if you're meant to sit with a spread or a read for a really long time, you're meant to sit with it for a long time. And if you are like, oh shit, I can only remember the last two, then that most likely is what you're meant to focus on or the big impact for you.
mm,
And so oftentimes I love to just listen, reflect, and the other big takeaway, because like you, the more you've started talking about the archetypes of the different signs, that's really resonated with me. And so as we think about the archer is like the pullback of that arm and the string. And
mm,
like
mhm,
we're just at the start of that, right?
mhm.
And then it's gonna expand outwards. And while arrows are quick in real life, this will have a little bit slower. It's like planting that seed, right? It's that mixture of the two.
Yeah. Oh, you made me think of two things. One, when you said arrows are quick, I also thought about all of the work and discipline that it takes to shoot a straight arrow. It takes practice leading up to that. It takes time to get to the precision of actually pulling back, right? Like it takes a lot of work to get there or unseen practice. But the other thing you made me think of with what your personal reflection on the new moon that is in our Substack was about when you said vulnerability with the emotional honesty and then coming back to the Ten of Cups reverse, right? It's like when we're emotionally vulnerable with people in our lives, with ourselves, I think that I want to say unhealed is like too strong a word, but I think that an unaware, maybe, or version of ourselves expects that when we are vulnerable and emotionally honest with people, that we may expect them to respond a certain way. And for me, growth is about like that deep knowing that I can be vulnerable and I can be honest and I can show you my emotions and I can learn that your reaction, the way you respond to that has not about like it doesn't mean that just because I don't hear back what I'm expecting, or maybe the growth happens in that I'm no longer expecting you to respond in any way. It's about I want to share my vulnerability and I'm going to create the safety in myself to be able to do that no matter what your reaction or your response is on the other end. And I think the Ten of Cups reverse, that emotional, the domestic bliss, all of that, that harmony, it's like, yeah, having that reverse, it kind of puts it into this perspective, right? Of this like this lifelong lesson of being vulnerable is like we can never expect anyone to respond in any way, but we do have very much the right and ability to yeah, to learn how to be able to be vulnerable and emotional with people in our lives and with ourselves and be okay with like it's more for us. I need to share this. I need to speak my truth or I need to be vulnerable for my own growth, for my own peace of mind. And you can take it however you want because this is more about my lesson and or my own experience and less about how you respond to my vulnerability. Does that make sense? I don't know. That's
It makes complete sense. And I also think for, and without speaking for you, and if this isn't true for you, but in my impression, like, yeah, coming from you as someone who learned, grew into, are organically someone who is really solid in her boundaries. And that doesn't mean you haven't had to work at it, right? Like, quote unquote, work at it. And I think I come from the perspective as you're talking is that and piece of wherever you're at on that spectrum of vulnerability because there are nuances around everyone's spirit and soul and big T, little t traumas of when they were vulnerable or not feeling safe and all of those things. And so I think also taking note of where Sag falls in your chart as well. Some of those houses could be a little bit more intense emotional for you personally, right? Because that is the thing with astrology is that it is so personal. It could be more intense.
Yes, yeah. It's always, we say this and I can't say it enough. Like, where does this sign fall in your chart? And then give yourself the space to see what comes up for you. And that's what you and I, Allie and I, do a lot in our reflections in our newsletter is talk a lot about how it comes up for us personally. And, I know yours is in your fourth house, mine is in my 11th house. And there's a lot I want to sit with because again, like you hear the reading, you look at where it lands in your chart and you allow what comes through to come through. And I think that's the cool part. So definitely give the Substack a follow. And we really want to continue on with that kind of long form writing and being able to connect with people in that way and share a little bit more of the personal reflections. But with, again, like go look at these gorgeous cards that Liz did her reading with. They're so stunning. I'm literally, as soon as we get off, I'm going to text her and ask her what deck this is. But if you're very, drawn to the beauty and aesthetics as I am, I think definitely go check it out once that's published. So without further ado, we'll pass you on to Liz's reading.
Hi, witches. It's me, Liz Pratt, your favorite witch, and I am back with another new moon tarot reading. So, this new moon is in the sign of Sagittarius. This is our last new moon of 2025, and it is our last fire sign of 2025. So I like to think of this as the eternal flame, the final flame that's going to carry us through the depths of winter. And it's so amazing that it falls right before the winter solstice, which is the shortest day of the year. So we have the shortest amount of sunlight. It is going to be the longest night. They say the darkest night, maybe even coldest night of the year. But we've got our flame here to warm our hearts and keep us hopeful and keep us inspired as we close out this 9 year and we move into 2026, which I know people are saying is a 1 year because of numerology, but it is actually a 10 year. And the 10 is very important because it is a co-creating with spirit year. We have the 1, which is new beginning, the 0 is infinity. And so this is when we are working together with source, with our soul, with our highest self. So when I was sitting down to do this reading today, I was tuning in and I opened my eyes for a moment. I looked out my window and I saw 2 deer sitting really comfortably, gracefully in my neighbor's backyard. Now, I live in a suburban urban area, okay? Lots of busy streets, buildings, restaurants, small houses with small yards. And these deer were sitting so comfortably, so safely. That is not something common that I ever see. And when I saw them, I knew Lady Artemis would be here today assisting in this message. If you don't know Lady Artemis, She is a deity of the moon, of the hunt, of the wilderness. She teaches us how to work with the moon, which is what we've been doing during these new moon readings. She teaches us how to work with herbs, how to work with the earth. She teaches us strength and precision and strategy. She is tough, and she is also soft, and she helps us tap into that internal emotional world, which is so closely tied to our intuition. Most of us believe that our emotions are things that just get in the way, right? They're just the result of an experience that we had. This happened and now I feel sad. That happened and now I feel happy. But our emotions are actually our guiding light for many of us, especially the emotional authorities out there. They are our guiding light, and they teach us how to move through the world. And when we know how to harness and really channel these emotions into art, into our craft, into work, they expand us, and they expand our presence in ways that is just absolutely amazing. So if you know too, Sagittarius, yes, the half horse, half man, but he also has the bow and arrows. So beautiful, so fitting that Lady Artemis would be joining us today. So thank you, Lady Artemis. And if you work with her, you know that she is coming through for you today. All right, so let's get right into it. This is a watery spread for a fiery new moon. All three of the cards that I have pulled today are in the Suit of Cups. The first card I have pulled is what is burning away. So this is the 12th month of a 9-year. We're still very much in the shed, like whatever wasn't shed with Scorpio season is definitely being like burned away, turned to ash, because we are not carrying it with us into 2026. This is the Two of Cups in reverse. And this really feels like emotional honesty and vulnerability. So maybe we have kept our hearts kind of locked away, or just far away enough from the people that we love that we don't engage in too much intimacy. Maybe we haven't been really honest with people in our lives about how we feel, how some behaviors make us feel, how some things that like they said made us feel. Maybe we are thinking like, oh, that made me feel uncomfortable, but I'll just keep it to myself because maybe it's actually my wound and it's my projection and me. But you need to have these conversations. Emotional intimacy and emotional honesty are also very much about boundaries, right? If something has happened or keeps happening between you and a loved one, and you aren't speaking up about it, no matter how small it may seem, it will become bigger and bigger. And this is also just a habit that keeps us from really accessing our power. You should feel good and strong about speaking up and saying how you feel, especially to the people who are in your community, who you love and support, and who also support you. I'm sure there are people listening to this, myself included, who grew up being told time and time again that we were too sensitive. Like, you're such a baby. Why are you crying about it? Or I didn't mean it like that. You don't have to take it so personally, right? Like we've all heard this. And that's usually why we keep these things kind of to ourselves and try to work it out with ourselves, by ourselves. But here's the thing, 2026 is the year of the fire horse, but horses are not animals that are by themselves. They are in herds all the time. They are always together. This is a community year. So if emotional honesty is keeping you at a distance from your community, that is something that needs to stay behind. Say how you feel. Be vulnerable. If it is not received well, then that person isn't meant to be in your life anyway. And then and you don't carry it, or you don't carry them into the next phase of your life, right? It's okay to say how you feel. The next card is what is being illuminated. And this is the Nine of Cups. This feels like a soul's mission. The Nine of Cups is almost, besides the court cards, it is almost the last card in a suit of cups. So if you think about the Fool's journey, they've gone through the Two of Cups, so like balance, emotional honesty, the Three of Cups, which is like, coming together as a community and celebrating. They've moved through all of these things. They've really been advancing as far as like working with their emotions. So 9 is almost to the end. Like they've done a lot of work. And this is when we stand up, we really realize how far we have come, and we recognize it and acknowledge it. And this is our wish coming through. It's our wish for, not just like money and the house and, not in like a material way. This is like a wish for like, what do you want to see this world look like? And how, and what role do you want to play in it? Who are you to your community? Are you ready to be the divine feminine leader? Are you ready to walk the path of a priestess, of a goddess, of a healer? No matter what your day job is, you fit into an archetype in some way. And this Nine of Cups, this is like wish fulfillment on a soul level. This is sovereignty. This is revelry. This is such a beautiful, beautiful card. And what I'm getting is just this image of you opening up, like really opening up that heart and be standing bravely and in your truth and in your power of, I am a soft, feminine being. I am a goddamn light in this world. That is what the Nine of Cups is bringing here under what is being illuminated. And so what is the last card or third card here is what I'm being asked to expand into. Where am I being asked to expand into this energy? And I have the 10 of Cups reversed. The 10 of Cups generally is about domestic bliss and harmony within the home. In this reverse position, it feels like reconciliation, and it feels like forgiveness or meeting our early caregivers and our family with empathy. So our early caregivers shaped so much of who we are today. And this could be family, this could be friends, this could be teachers, whoever was there supporting you, guiding you, and really helping to raise you in those formative years. So they teach us how to move through the world, and they can often be, the experiences that we have with them can really be the root of our wounding. And so going back to our first card, which was the Two of Cups reversed, and having this feeling of like, I was told I'm too sensitive. That's why I can't share my heart. That's why I can't share my feelings. You often experienced that within your home. And part of our healing journey, and if you're listening to this, you are most definitely a cycle breaker, a generational trauma breaker. Okay. It's ending with you and your line. You are not carrying this over into new generations. And so part of that is often really being able to see your caregivers, the ones who are like, really were there at the formation of these wounds, and say, oh, they were also just people. they were wounded too. They saw my light, saw me shine, and it triggered them because they remembered how their light was stomped out and they didn't know what to do. And all they had was to be mean or to tell me to be quiet or to laugh at me or try to hide me, try to ignore my gifts, my feelings, my big emotions. They had no idea what else to do. So they acted out of immaturity and ignorance. And they're a human being, just like I'm a human being. But you know what? I'm here to heal myself and to help others heal and to pave a new way. And that's what that 10 of Cups in reverse feels like. So if you are no contact with your family, this does not necessarily mean that I am telling you, go pick up the phone, right? But it's that reconciliation within the self, that really coming to terms with like the humanity that is shared between you and those early caregivers. And also when you flip that and when you see them as like, oh, they were just wounded people, you also get to take that power back from them. Not positioning them as these like powerful overlords who tortured you, who had like, now seeing them as like, oh, they were just weak. Gosh. But then look at me and how strong I am. Right? That's taking your power back for that inner child. Wow. So just sit with this reading. I know that I typically channel some rituals, some affirmations to help you integrate this energy. But for this reading, because we're at the end of the year, the advice, and Lady Artemis is coming in loud and clear on this one, is to rest and take good care of yourself and take good care of your heart and to really get comfortable with feeling like you are in your power, because this year coming up, this is your year. Until next time, happy new moon and happy winter solstice.
Thanks for tuning in. If you resonate with today's conversation, connect with us on Instagram at Karmic Mirror Podcast and send us a message.
And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And if you're loving Karmic Mirror, we'd appreciate a glowing review or share with someone who could benefit.
As we close, remember, life is not a one-size-fits-all approach. How are you honoring your unique path? Stay curious and always be kind to yourself. Until next time on Karmic Mirror.